Summer Game Fest is already a blur, but I have to tell you, I had a fantastic time at this year's event. It was a blast to see all kinds of friends from across the industry. I was able to get my hands on tons of cool games. I had a lot of demos. I was also able to hang out with a bunch of great people from the media side of things, but I also spoke with a bunch of game developers. My first demo was for the new Atari game called Yars Rising, which is very reminiscent of the classic Yars Revenge, fused into a Metroidvania meets a little bit of a WarioWare experience. If that sounds weird and also very compelling to you, this game, I think, is going to fit the bill. I had a really good time playing the game and checking it out in person, but I also spoke with the game's director, James Montagna.
We're showing Yars Rising, a reimagining of the classic 1982 Atari game, Yars Revenge. So we wanted to make something that feels contemporary and cool and different, but also is sort of our own way of introducing players to the game that we love and grew up playing, just with a new kind of like approach entirely, something very different and fresh. So in this game, you play as a computer hacking prodigy named Emi Kimura, and her basic goal is to infiltrate a future conglomerate known as Kotek. And so she wins their trust, gets a job, and hacks them from the inside. But in this story, she actually gets caught, and now she has to try to escape the building with her life, in the process uncovering a conspiracy. As she's exploring the Kotek building, she'll discover all sorts of alien augments, as we refer to them, which are powers that basically upgrade her DNA and give her the ability to do things like charge forward with a powerful burst, fire a blaster out of her hands, grasshopper legs that allow her to bounce and jump off the walls, and all sorts of things like that. And she's basically using those powers to take down Kotek from the inside.
Have you had any contact with Howard Scott Warshaw?
Well, I'm an enormous fan of Howard Scott Warshaw. I've read his books, like watched interviews and stuff like that. Before we developed this game, I made sure to do a deep dive on researching, and we created this game to honor what he created in the past. My interaction with him was very brief, but I let him know that he's an inspiration and a pioneer.
Sega also had a few games to check out. They had Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble for the Nintendo Switch. I think it's a Switch exclusive, and it was running really well when I was playing the single-player adventure mode, and there's tons of cool levels in there. There are also a lot of different modes, and there's a huge emphasis on playing multiplayer, but the frame rate did take a hit whenever you got into other modes. And it was a pretty dramatic switch around going from 60 frames a second to 30 frames a second in that particular game because it felt so buttery smooth in 60. I think it won't be that big of a deal if you're playing multiplayer with your friends online or locally, or you're trying out some of the modes. There's races and battles and all kinds of stuff. And a whole bunch of beloved Sega characters are in the game as well. It does look like a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to reviewing that one for you guys. I also tried Sonic X Shadow Generations. I don't know if it's Sonic Cross Shadow Generations, but you get an updated version of Sonic Generations in there, which fused a little bit of the 3D fun of Sonic. And fun can be in quotations. It hasn't always been wonderful in 3D with Sonic. But you get a little bit of that, and you also get the sort of more traditional two-dimensional elements of Sonic Generations in there. It was a lot of fun to play, and the shadow stuff was cool. It amped it up. It was a little bit edgier. I got into a boss fight that was giving me a bit of trouble, and it looks amazing. These things absolutely flew on the OLED screens that Sega had prepared for us, and they look gorgeous. I think it's tried and true Sonic gameplay, and if you're a fan of that, I think you're going to dig Sonic Cross Shadow Generations. But the big one for me to try out from Sega was Metaphor ReFantazio. I had no idea what to expect from this game, other than it's from the geniuses that bring out the Persona games and the Shin Megami Tensei games, which always kind of baffle me. They're so weird and strange and creepy and cool, and they're always so beautiful and so artfully crafted, and that is absolutely the truth here again. Metaphor ReFantazio is unlike anything else that I saw across all of SGF. Gorgeous art design, lots of great transitional elements, lots of weird creatures that you're getting into combat with. It's a little bit more real-time as well, like you're getting in there and slicing and dicing with the enemies. And beautiful music, a lot of orchestral, almost operatic, super big, bombastic music. I was really floored by the scope of what I got my hands on. I didn't play it for that long, but it was mind-bending. It was just so trippy with all kinds of interesting visual flourishes and all of these incredible transitional elements as well. You're just aghast at how creative the people behind this game are. And I was really, really happy to get my hands on it. I think it's going to be a super successful title for fans of Atlus's titles, the Persona games, the Shin Megami Tensei, but it does feel different. I can't wait to play that one and review it for you guys. I'll stream some of it when I get it as well. And I also got a chance to speak with the product director on the title as well, and he had this to say.
From the name you can see it's all about a metaphor, right? A lot of fans have been asking about Atlus doing a fantasy RPG, and this is an art take to it, but of course we're bringing the best of the best from Atlus. Hashino-san, Suejima-san, Meguro-san for the music as well. They've created Studio Zero, and they're the creators of Persona 3, 4, and 5. They've created something very unique, and we're really excited for our fans to see what they have in store for them.
Is this connected to the Persona games or the Shin Megami Tensei games at all, or is it totally different?
Very good question. Absolutely not. It's kind of like it's different universe. This is what you're going to see. There's brand new monsters, some of them that we call humans. I'll let you discover why by yourself when you get your hands on the game. But it's a completely different universe. You'll see there's a lot of inspiration from the 35 years of history of expertise from Atlus. But this feels familiar yet very unique and very different. Our goal here is really to make sure that you experience something new while it doesn't feel strange to you. So Meguro-san, who's worked on past titles from Persona, of course, is our composer for this game as well. He has a very fresh and unique take on metaphor. So this is not, the jazzy feel that you have with Persona. It's very own unique and feels very natural to the world. There's a lot of different inspirations for different genres that we haven't tapped into in the past. Just yesterday, one of the outlets gave us the best demo of SGF, so I was very happily surprised with that. Everyone has been, super impressed with the demo. They said that this feels very different, which is exactly what we wanted. But I'm really, really looking forward to hearing your thoughts as well.
Does the move for these creators of Persona to this new game signify that there won't be more Persona games?
That's not something I can talk about, obviously, right now. They decide what they want to do. But, of course, we love Persona, we love Shin Megami Tensei, we love Metaphor, and we're really looking forward to bring this new IP to the world. After my time with Sega, I checked out Dune Awakening in the Level Infinite area, and this is a big MMORPG with survival elements. It has a big what-if story, kind of a separate timeline where you see the Atreides battling the Harkonnen, and you're kind of choosing sides and trying to stay alive and create allies. They start you off in a kind of a smaller area, and they've really tried to create a lot of diversity in this desert landscape of Arrakis, and you have all kinds of challenges that you've got to face, of course the sandworms, and of course enemy threats and stuff, and things that want to kill you and eat you. And then once you get the lay of the land and you've built yourself up a little bit, the game opens up quite a bit wider. I have to admit, I'm not a huge super fan of MMOs or survival type games where that go on and on and on forever, but Funcom knows what they're doing. If you're a fan of the Dune universe, I think this one is something to keep your eye on. Something that is cool about the game is that they're definitely employing artistic elements from the movies, but also using the books as resource as well. And they have some massive plans beyond the scope of what we're seeing so far with Dune Awakening. They also gave me some hands-on time with Path of Exile 2, which plays and looks a lot like a Diablo-style game. It's beautiful. There's lots of great visual flourishes and magic effects and stuff. It's multiplayer, it's free to play, and something that they did tell me is that Path of Exile 1 is also going to keep getting new content. So there's two separate tracks. They're not closing down Exile 1 and then starting Exile 2. You can just keep playing the Exile 1 content if you prefer, but they've got a whole new roadmap for Path of Exile 2, and it did look sweet, I gotta say. After that, I went over to the Heart Machine area and checked out Hyper Light Breaker, which is a prequel of sorts to Hyper Light Drifter. This is a full 3D game. It's open world, it's a roguelike. You've got cool projectile weaponry and cool melee weaponry. It's got a really fantastic minimalist art style, which is evocative of the 2D design. But I definitely heard from the game's producer, Michael Clark, that they wanted to try something new, and that is indicative of the philosophy over at Heart Machine.
Hyper Light Breaker is an open-world roguelite with extraction elements, which is a lot of words. We wanted to solve the problem of open world and roguelite. Open worlds require you to spend a lot of time in this one world to learn it, to know it, to explore it. Roguelites are all about disposing those worlds, typically. And so this hybridization we have has you experiencing the world over multiple lives, over multiple runs in what we call a cycle. And when that cycle ends, that's when you get a whole new world to experience. You get that permadeath feeling that you get in a roguelite without it being just one life. Ultimately, we want to make games that we want to play. Drifter was a 2D experience. We wanted to see what we could do with that world and that setting and bring it into 3D. We did a lot of work to translate the aesthetic, the vibe, the world into 3D. We don't think of ourselves as a sequel. We're a whole new title in the Hyperlight world. Our game takes place before the events of Drifter in a different part of the world, but we wanted to capture that same feeling. I think a lot of classic games that we grew up with playing had that transition at some point from 2D to 3D, and we wanted to do that with our world. I think if you are fans of Drifter, you are going to recognize a lot of the same visual style, visual elements in the demo you played today. That opening moment is actually a purposeful callback to the opening of Drifter, and that feel and that sudden reveal that you get of the world. You're going to feel it in the DNA while also feeling something that is wholly new. We don't want people to come in with expectations of it was like this in Drifter, so it'll be like this and this. But every time they see those echoes of that same universe and the thing they knew before, they're going to go, yeah, this feels like where I was. This feels like that game I enjoyed. I've seen a lot of surprise and delight. I think our fans at this point actually appreciate that we are doing new things, that we are not the company that makes the one game, but rather we're the company that makes these games that are games we want to play. Everything that we've made, everything that we've announced, because we just announced Possessors, which is another new genre, new aesthetic, whole new world. We want to make new things. We want to make things that are fun, that are the games that we want to experience. We don't want to make just one thing. We have too many ideas, too many things we want to do to confine ourselves in that way. As a developer, you look at it and you want to make it better. You look for all of the marble that needs to be removed to get the statue inside. To totally just paraphrase Michelangelo many, many years ago. Watching other people play it, watching people excited and delighted by what they're experiencing, it's absolutely invigorating as a developer. We get to experience what they see for the first time when all we see is the work that we're trying to do, but all they see is the game that's there. That is the moment that I live for. That is so invigorating as a developer to see all the effort that we put into something turn into something that is delight for someone. So this summer, we're going to hit Steam in early access. We'll have more details about future platforms and what early access means for us and how long that lasts after we've launched. But this summer, you'll be able to play us on Steam.
After that, it was time for me to head over to Capcom, where I had a demo of Monster Hunter Wilds, which looks amazing. And the thing that I'm really recognizing about the Monster Hunter games, particularly the mainline ones, is that they seem to iterate on it and just improve it and make it much more organic and freeform and in real time, much more open, and there's a lot more diversity in the environment, and there's just a lot more mechanics and a lot more things that you can do without any clutter in the way, without things kind of slowing things down, whether that's loading times, whether your character's moving from interior areas to exterior areas, picking up all kinds of loot, even being able to jump on top of these giant beasts. You can even, after you've killed one, you can carve the beast from atop the beast. All the animals looked incredible. The fur physics and the weather effects and the lighting effects, it is gorgeous. There was a lot going on, and I have to say that in my hands-off demo, it did crash a couple of times, but who can fault Capcom? This game is a year away or so, and they've got a lot of tuning and tweaking that they're going to be able to do, and they will do, and it's going to be something special when it arrives in 2025. I think Monster Hunter fans are going to be in heaven with Monster Hunter Wilds. But I also got some hands-on time with Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess, and this is a really cool game. It's coming out pretty soon, but the whole concept here is there's a fusion between strategy elements and action elements, so you are going and doing some hacking and slashing and stuff, but you're also possessing these other allies and putting them in the path of these demons that are coming to get you. And ultimately, you're also leading the goddess to seal up this magic door to try to keep these demons from coming in. So there's a kind of a tower defense-esque element to the gameplay. Plus, it's absolutely gorgeous in terms of its visual fidelity and the artistic elements. It is sumptuous. I also love that the camera's pulled back a little bit, and even though you're going around in real time and getting into action bits, you kind of see a lot of the lay of the land. And it was a very unique and very addictive experience to jump into. I have high hopes for this title. I think it's going to be a nice summer surprise. I also got some hands-on time with Street Fighter 6 playing as M. Bison, and he is super powerful. He's a little bit slower, but he packs a massive punch. I was able to win most of the fights as him, so I don't know how they had the difficulty level kind of set up for me or whatever, but it was really fun to play as this character. I know Street Fighter diehards have been waiting for Bison. There's also some Fatal Fury characters that are going to be coming to Street Fighter 6. The whole thing looks gorgeous. What a masterpiece Street Fighter 6 has turned out to be. But I think if you've been along for the ride, you can't wait for M. Bison, and I don't think Capcom's going to disappoint you. And speaking of Fatal Fury, I also got my hands on Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, and this looks gorgeous from SNK. Lots of beautiful details in the backgrounds. The animations for the fighters are incredibly well detailed, and the precision of all of the combat moves and stuff. I mean, I don't think this is quite up to Street Fighter 6 caliber, but it's pretty damn close. I was a fan of what SNK did with the recent Samurai Showdown title that they moved into 3D, and I think they've got something very special with Fatal Fury. I can't keep the names of all of the different characters straight, but I had a really good time. I tried out every single character that they had for us to demo. I also watched some Fatal Fury kind of pros go at it, and one of the things that they tipped me off on is that the reason why this series endures and why it's been so successful is that you can go from combo to combo to combo. You can string a whole bunch of really cool attacks, and it's incredibly exciting to watch the masters at work. It's great for noobs like myself, though, just coming in cold and re-experiencing Fatal Fury as well. I felt like a badass, took a few hits, but I knocked a bunch of people down. I did all right. Your boy did okay. It's definitely a very cool fighting game to look forward to, and that one's coming out in 2025. And after I got some hands-on time with City of the Wolves, I went to a great mixer, a little cocktail reception for Xbox to kind of celebrate their Xbox showcase, which was going to be the morning after, and that was all taking place at the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, a very swank environment. The David Geffen Theater is where they piled us all into, and I haven't been in a theater experiencing a bunch of video game trailers, I think, since E3 in 2019, so that was quite exciting. I was tweeting like crazy and read a bunch of your tweets. I had a chance to chat with Aaron Greenberg.
Most looking forward to Victor. Oh my God.
What are we going to see today, Aaron?
I'm hoping to see the secret Canadian handshake. So,
which is right there. We got it on film.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
We've got, I mean, have we ever had this many studios and all of this?
No.
Like E3.
No.
Like E3's back. So yeah, I'm excited.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a lot to manage.
Games from our studios. We've confirmed Xbox Game Studios, Bethesda, Blizzard, Activision, all have games in the show, plus our partners, so it should be fun. We're doing another double feature again.
Awesome.
And a lot of Canadians here. It might be a record Canadian attendance.
Canadians love video games.
They do.
Yes, it
They
gets
do.
cold up in our country.
Those are your words, not mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they say.
And of course, Phil Spencer and Matt Booty and Sarah Bond all got up on stage before the showcase and talked a little bit about it. Everybody was super jazzed and super pumped and excited, understandably, because this showcase was going to show off games from all of their studios. Activision with Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and they had some Diablo 4 content in there, some new World of Warcraft material. The Xbox Game Studio stuff was front and center up there. We got a really good look at Perfect Dark, which looks absolutely stunning. We also got a great look at Compulsion's title called South of Midnight, which I was shocked by how beautiful that looks. I am very excited by that title. A lot of the stuff that they were showing off is coming out in 2025, like Doom, The Dark Ages, where you're getting into some melee combat and throwing your shield like you're Captain America, but the shield cuts off heads. Can't wait for that game. That looks amazing. But we're going to be getting those titles next year. Also, awesome looking titles like Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which had a really beautiful stylistic vibe to it, this painterly type vibe to it. Really excited by that game. I'm also stoked for the indie title Mixtape, which looks so freaking cool, using all kinds of bands that I've been listening to for a very long time, and it looks really artistic. It's by the people that made the Artful Escape game, which was a blast and also beautiful. So excited by that. But this year we are getting Avowed, which is looking better and better every time we get a chance to take a look at it. We don't have very much longer to wait for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and I am so stoked for that game. And of course, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is going to be a major release for Xbox, and Phil Spencer said that this is the first time in years that Call of Duty was on stage for Xbox, so that's going to be a juggernaut for the company. So I think it was an incredibly successful showcase, kind of outlining the next 18 months or so for Microsoft and all of its game studios. We've got a lot to look forward to. But I didn't have long to kind of sit and just kind of think about all that stuff because I had to book it back to Summer Game Fest, where I got hands-on time with Astrobot, which is easily one of the most enjoyable things that I played during the whole weekend. It is gorgeous, and it is also a really fantastic manifestation of what it's like to build a game with the controls and the console in mind from start to finish. Just like the Astrobot pack-in game that came with the PlayStation 5 or the VR Astrobot game, these titles really showcase what this hardware can do. And so you feel everything with the DualSense, every new addition and power-up, like the idea to shoot these little frog hands out that grab these things like sticky devices and you can kind of swing like Spider-Man, but you really felt it. It's imbued in you as you're playing with this thing. And the music and the visual effects and all of the haptic elements, all of it sort of comes together. It is so precise and beautifully tuned. It felt very Nintendo-esque, you know? And another thing that I love about Astrobot is that it's a family-friendly experience from PlayStation, which traditionally has a lot of M-rated or mature-facing experiences, but this is really, really tight. I cannot wait. I'll be shocked if Astrobot doesn't end up being one of my favorite games of 2024 and also in the conversation for Game of the Year. I'm a little less enthused by the Lego Horizon Adventures game, which feels a little bit confusing because the Horizon games are M-rated games that are loaded with some pretty horrific and violent elements. There's certainly some beautiful, appealing work in the Horizon titles that would appeal to anybody, but Aloy is a badass, and she's still a badass in Lego form, but it doesn't really jive. That cutesy kind of take on everything in Lego form doesn't quite jive with the property. And I do like what they're doing in terms of making this feel like a movie, like a Lego movie that you can play. It's not like you've got Lego in your backyard. It's like everything is made out of Lego, all the trees and the ground and everything. So it reminded me of the Lego movies. But I don't know, man. The Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga is kind of the pinnacle in the Lego video game experiences as far as I'm concerned. There's just so much beautiful content in there, and TT kind of tuned everything so that it just played wonderfully as well. It's a great action adventure. And this feels a little bit like we're going backwards a bit in some ways in some of the design pieces. I mean, there's some fun bits in there where you can mix and match some PlayStation IP and some other Lego IP into the stuff that you're building, and it does look cool. I hope this game charms me when I get my hands on the final code, but I wasn't blown away by the title when I got to sit down and play it at SGF. I did go over and check out some of the games that Netflix had on display, and I am impressed by Netflix's commitment to the video game space. A lot of this stuff is indie titles. They had a game called Arranger, which is kind of like one of those slide the tile puzzle pieces, except you're an adventurer. You're playing an RPG on these tiles that are being slid up and down, and they can kind of wrap around the world. It's very interesting. It reminded me a little bit of Crypt of the Necrodancer, but with this tile format. And the art is cool, and the puzzles were puzzling. I was scratching my head. I had to ask the developers a couple times, what the hell do I do right now? But there was something definitely engaging that kept pulling me into it. I was playing it on an iPad, and the tactility and zipping the puzzle pieces felt natural and great, but this is also coming to consoles and the PC. It did look cool. And I didn't get hands-on time with Harmonium or the Dragon Prince game, but those two titles look pretty damn cool coming from Netflix as well. Harmonium looks like a full-on animated movie. It's such a cool looking experience. But as I say, I'm pretty impressed by Netflix and their continued drive to get into the gaming space and investing in some pretty cool ideas like this. After that, I raced over to the Electronic Arts area to check out a demo of Dragon Age: The Veilguard, and this game looks sensational. It's using the Frostbite engine, which was a bit of a surprise to me, but they've come far along with using this engine. Inquisition, if you guys can recall, was our favorite game of that year, I think 2014. An absolutely mind-blowing RPG experience from BioWare, and of course what they've been able to do over this 10 years is kind of level up on the story, give us a lot more
consequential branching narrative, so side quests that you go on, also the compatriots that you collect along the way are much more meaningful, and we got a taste of that. And I love that the demo gave us a section of just being able to choose as a group which way we were going with everything. But it looks big, it looks elaborate, and it also, importantly, doesn't forget the small stuff. And so those intimate moments between the characters matter, and the choices that you make really make a difference. And it looks like it's going to be a beautiful experience. I cannot wait for this. The biggest surprise I think I had throughout all of SGF is that it's coming out this year. It's coming out this fall, so we don't have long to wait for Dragon Age the Veilguard. And I got a chance to catch up with the Veilguard's creative director, John Epler. What are you guys showing off at Summer Game Fest?
We're showing off the first hour of the game, giving people a preview, a little bit of a peek at what we have coming, and yeah, really excited to do so.
How does the Veilguard differ from the experience of something like Inquisition?
Again, each game is its own unique entity. The Veilguard is kind of the summation of all the lessons we've learned up to this point. I'd say the biggest difference is a much bigger focus on companions and the stories of those companions.
We've had to wait a little while for the new Dragon Age.
That's right.
Can you kind of give us a sense of why it took BioWare so long to put this together?
Every game takes as long as it takes. In the case of the Veilguard, we tried a few things, saw what worked, and what came out the other end was a Veilguard and experience we're super proud of. So,
what do you think is going to surprise people the most about Veilguard that are huge fans of Dragon Age?
Honestly, a couple of things, one of which is going to be, again, the companions, how deep their storylines go, and also, it's, in my opinion, the best looking Dragon Age game we've ever done.
And about that, you're using the Frostbite engine game.
Correct,
yeah. And a lot of people were wondering, what you guys were going to do. What was the decision to stay with Frostbite?
We know the engine, we know the tools, and visually it creates some very absolutely spectacular vistas, absolutely spectacular visuals. I love the way the environments are going to look, and I can't wait for people to see that.
After that, I got some hands-on time with Stalker 2, and I wasn't blown away by the game. And I don't know if it was a frame rate issue. I had a crash that happened as I was playing through the game. It's a big open world experience, and there's a lot to explore and a lot to see. It's an ambitious title. It's being made in the Ukraine during some truly horrific times. But what I played wasn't that crazy fun. I got into one battle with some weird mutant and stuff, but it was all out of context, and it is coming out very soon. They've been working on this thing for a long time under some terrible circumstances, but I wasn't blown away. I mean, that's all I can say. It's like, I hope it turns out great, but what I played, I wasn't super enthused by. There were more compelling experiences for me to kind of shift my focus to, but my fingers are crossed that Stalker 2 turns out to be awesome. But the other big title that Xbox had on the show floor sitting beside Stalker 2 is a little game called Replaced from Sad Cat Studios, and holy crap is that game unbelievably cool. It's a mix of Limbo and Flashback and Blade Runner, and probably some other ones in there as well. And if that sounds good to you, that's how it sort of went ringing around inside of my head as I was playing the game. It is so gorgeous. The 2D pixel art is stunning in this title, but they've done some great things with the camera control. When you're getting into combat, the camera doesn't sort of stay static or zoom in. It actually lurches as you're trying to move from one area to another. You're swinging a bat or whatever. You're trying to dive out of the way. Really cool there, but it's also a game where it feels like everything is closing in on you and you've got to run for your life, very Limbo-like or Inside-like. Boy, those games were influential, huh? And I was being chased and pursued, and there's beautiful lighting and all kinds of gorgeous pixelated effects and stuff. I cannot freaking wait for this game. It is so up my alley. Replaced looks sensational. It's near the top of the games I'm most excited for the rest of 2024. Something that I did play at Annapurna actually got my attention. It's a game called Bounty Star, where you do some farming and you have to kind of keep your ranch rich in all kinds of vegetables and stuff and keep it safe and protected. And the way that you protect everything is you jump into a giant mech suit and you go and hunt bounties. So you take out bad guys and most everybody is wanted dead. There was no bringing people back alive or anything like that, but you're shooting at organic creations and lots of robotic creations. The mech controls actually felt pretty cool, and it looked like there was just a lot of really interesting thinking and lots of different systems and lots of stuff to kind of manage and take advantage of in the title. And it looked cool. I also like the sort of comic booky art style for it. And if you put a mech in a game, I'm 50%, I'm there. It was pretty damn fun to play. And something else that I was super excited to see was Fear the Spotlight. This is the first game coming out from Blumhouse Games, and it is super fun, super creepy. I love the PlayStation 1 aesthetics, but it feels very modern. It's a weird disconnect in your head. It's like, how can something that looks so clunky be so smooth and so stylish? And it's a wonderful pairing, you know? It feels incredibly indie, but also incredibly intelligent and very spooky and very creepy. It's a great first at-bat for Blumhouse. And I spoke with Blumhouse Games' new president, Zach Wood.
We're showing our very first game, Fear the Spotlight. Comes out later this year. And if you didn't see the preview trailer at Summer Game Fest on Jeff's show, we announced 6 games in one trailer. It's pretty wild.
Why did Blumhouse want to start making video games?
It's a tremendous growth opportunity, in entertainment. Horror's massive, it's perennial, it's evergreen. Horror's doing good in multiple places, in our films and our television and live events, and they were very interested in getting into games. And there's a lot of crossover between horror fans and game players. I think it over-indexes, like 60% of horror fans consider themselves gamers as well. So it's just a great opportunity.
What can horror games do that horror movies can't?
Well, it's the immersive experience. It's being there in those worlds and experiencing different scary stories that no other medium can achieve. And so, yeah, we're super excited.
Have you started work already on properties that filmgoers know?
Not yet, but we will, for sure. So much of that is about the right timing. It's like the right idea, the right creative partners to really maximize the opportunity. We want to pay off, if we're going to do a Blumhouse property, we want to pull it off in the right way that really maximizes its potential. We know that fans have high expectations for those things, and we want to do it right. So we're starting with all originals. It's kind of like how Jason built the film business. Indie scope, small budget horror that has, low risk, high upside. We're approaching games in the same way. A lot of really creative ideas in horror, and all of our, the outreach from developers has been tremendous. People are excited that we're here, focused on horror, and we're super excited to be able to talk about it for the first time.
How did this whole relationship with Blumhouse come together? Did they approach you, or did you approach them? How did it come together?
Yeah, they did, through a friend. They were talking to a lot of people, trying to get different takes of what they would do with a Blumhouse game division, and I was recommended as somebody they should talk to, and they sort of asked me what my approach would be, and I just said I would love to create a slate of originals, really creative ideas, and it resonated, and here we are. Fear the Spotlight is what we're focused on now. So it is a love letter to early 90s sort of teen, early console horror in the best possible way, with some really modern, tactile nature to the way the world feels, the way you interact with the world. The story's incredible. It's such a great experience. We found it through a friend who had posted a demo on Twitter, immediately downloaded it, and Louise Blaine, my creative lead, and I sat next to each other and played it, and we were vocalizing the entire time. It just resonated with us, and it speaks to the kinds of games that we want to put a spotlight on. Because it really is, it checks all the boxes. It's immersive, it's easy to play, it's legit scary, it's got a great story, and it feels really good. We talk a lot about juicy mechanics, and it just feels really good to play. So we're excited that it's our first release, and excited to be partnered with Cozy Game Pals. They're a husband and wife team. 2 people made this game over the course of 3 years. It's just really incredible.
After my time with Blumhouse, the show wrapped up for the second day, but things got moving again on the third and last day of SGF. My first stop was Bandai Namco, where I checked out a couple of games. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero was the first one, and I can't tell you what was going on in this game because I didn't follow the anime. I'm not a huge fan of the world of Dragon Ball. I've played plenty of Dragon Ball games over the years, and this is the first one in a long time that it gives you that sort of flying and floating and fighting fighting in full 3 dimensions, and it's incredibly ambitious. It uses Unreal Engine 5 technology, and it's crazy, man. You just fly all over the damn place. You go under the water, you fly up in the sky, you could play as every number of different colored hair of guys that are just screaming at each other and just yelling and blasting the crap out of each other. And it's really, really, really freaking fun. I know that fans that know all of the minutia and the different versions of Goku, they're going to freak out being able to play as all of these characters, all of the cut sequences and the story buildup and the threads and the connections to everything that has come before. Really freaking cool. But as somebody that doesn't know what the hell is going on, I still had a good time. I liked playing as a bunch of these different characters. Some of them were giant, some of them were itty bitty. But they all kicked ass, and they were just having a good time throwing each other around and smashing through buildings. The thing that I kept thinking about is like, if this was like a DC superhero fighting game, or it was DC versus Marvel, and you had this kind of mobility and the momentum and all these power, I would be losing my freaking mind. But I know the Dragon Ball fans, people out there, they're going to flip for this. It looks like a total blast, and it was super fun to play. Comes out in October, and the other game that Bandai Namco was showing off is a title called Unknown 9 Awakening, and this is from a company called Reflector based in Quebec, and they're coming out with comic books and anime, and they've got the whole universe kind of all mapped out. It's about a woman that's got these special powers and abilities. She can jump into other characters and possess them and take control of them, and there's also all kinds of other psychotelekinetic kinds of things that you can do. There's stealth imbued in the experience. It's really cool looking, and there are a lot of vets on this team, a lot of people that have come from Ubisoft and have experience with some really big AAA experiences. So even though this is kind of brand new out of nowhere, I think we should all be keeping our eyes on this title and this world, this universe that they're building around Unknown 9. It looks incredibly exciting, and it's coming out this year. So I can't wait to play and review and stream and talk more about Unknown 9 Awakening. And then after that, I went to the game science area and got my hands on Black Myth Wukong, which is something I've been really, really excited to play ever since I saw the first imagery for it. I sat down and played a really freaking cool game. I played as a monkey, and I had all kinds of amazing abilities. I had lots of great martial arts skills, and I had some mysterious magical abilities as well, and the bosses and the enemies that I fought were creepy, freaking creepy, huge characters with giant heads and all kinds of just punishing massive attacks, and it was absolutely engrossing. It just looked like it had just been labored over, that people really worked hard to craft something beautiful and very special. Again, this is taking full advantage of Unreal Engine 5. The lighting is sensational, the fur effects and the visual fidelity and this heightened realism that is crafted in here. I mean, everything looks super mystical, supernatural, but also painted with the brushstrokes of attempting to be realistic as well. It does a number in your head when you're playing this thing. It's like, holy crap, this looks strange and uncomfortable and beautiful and badass. And the movements and the animations and the combat that I was getting in, loved it. I was really, really impressed. I can't wait for the final game. It was a great demo. I did get my ass kicked by some bosses that were just like, they'd take one swing at me and just kick me all over the place. But I had some fire abilities, and it was a lot. There was a lot for me to kind of grapple and take in. And, you know, when I handed the controller, because I wanted to see how somebody good would play the game, but when I handed the controller to one of the devs and they were just pulling off all of this stuff, looked incredible. I can't wait for the finished game. I can't wait to learn how to play it for real. But I have a feeling Black Myth Wukong is going to be a very special experience when it comes out. And I ended my whole trip to Summer Game Fest by visiting Ubisoft after their Ubisoft Forward event, where most of the emphasis was on Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, Assassin's Creed Shadows, they had a nice big hands-off demo where they showed off the gameplay for the two characters that you're going to be able to control in the game, sort of the tank type and also the stealthy type, the sneaky type. And both of the characters are super cool,
And I did like this new kind of direction that Ubisoft was going, but the first thing that came to my mind is like, this would have been an amazing experience. And I don't know if they're going to do this. I don't know if they're going to stealth drop this news or what, or if they did drop it, I haven't seen it, but it would be rad if you could play this in cooperative from start to finish and play as each character with a pal, either locally or online. That would be amazing and a nice shake-up for the Assassin's Creed formula. And it is a nice shake-up for the Assassin's Creed formula because it's kind of like the day missions and the night missions, and I like all of that, and of course it looks beautiful. These teams know what they're doing, it's tried and true, but it also stayed to the familiar. It also was something that I kind of recognized from the Assassin's Creed games. So it didn't shock me. It wasn't like, oh my god, I've never seen anything like that before. I love the ancient Japanese setting. I think we're long overdue for that. I just don't know how it plays yet. I haven't had my hands on it. I'm excited as hell to play it, but more than anything, I want to feel when I do play it that I'm playing something very fresh and very new. I don't know if it's just tied to the mechanics. I don't know if it's just the way that you feel manipulating these characters with the controls. I really just want the whole thing to feel like a reinvention. And that might be asking a lot because, of course, there are millions and millions of people that are very happy to just eat at the buffet of Assassin's Creed games that Ubisoft has been making us for years. What I was definitely much more excited about, and it was an amazing way to cap off Summer Game Fest this year, was Star Wars Outlaws, which has been at the top of my list for games that I'm most excited about for 2024 for a long time. And what I played did not disappoint. It's very fun. I got to play in a space combat sequence for a little bit, which wasn't, Star Wars Squadrons or anything like that, let's be real. But it was very cool to have TIE fighters swarming me and shooting me and figuring out the missiles and taking some of those guys out. It was fun to get into the on-foot blaster battles that I was getting into with stormtroopers. That was cool. And it was also really fun to explore and solve puzzles and find keys and unlock things. I like that. But the thing that impressed me the most is that I felt like I was walking through actual sets of Star Wars movies. Like they just felt very dense and fully realized and fully 3D. And a thought that came to my mind is that we haven't had a movie in the Star Wars world for a long time where budget is massive and there's just tons and tons of different characters walking around on screen. All the shows, they've been cool to varying degrees. I think out of all of them, it's Mandalorian and Andor that I'm most fond of. But most of the shows don't have the budget to have hundreds and hundreds of extras on screen, and so you can tell when they have a bunch of different characters on there, a lot of it is kind of CG'd into the background. So it felt different though to play a game where all of the characters that I'm walking around felt fully there and present and big budget and theatrical, even though it's a video game. I know that's a weird thing to explain, but it was cool. I felt like immersed in this giant, massive, pun intended, cinematic experience, and I think it's going to really deliver. I had fun with all elements that I played. It sounds great, it looks great, and it played great. So hopefully that is true all the way through, but I have nothing but major respect for Massive as a studio, and they have delivered and delivered and delivered time and again in the past. I think they're going to do it again here with Star Wars Outlaws. So that was what I had my hands on and what I was able to kind of take a look at. I also was able to chat with a bunch of friends from across the media landscape, and I got their thoughts as well.
The coolest thing I've seen at Summer Game Fest, Blumhouse Games, Fear the Spotlight, 90s throwback horror, narrative driven, really, really cool. I love those type of games.
What were your thoughts on the Xbox showcase this year?
I went in saying it was going to be a 9.5 and I left out of it saying it was a 10 out of 10. I think they knocked it out of the park.
Is there a game, apart from Fear the Spotlight, that you're most looking forward to in the back half of 2024 here?
Believe it or not, Indiana Jones. I really loved the trailer they showed at the Xbox showcase, so I can't wait to play that. And I'm a huge Machine Games fan.
Monster Hunter Wilds, that one looks amazing, especially even if it's a hands-off demo. I love what they're showing. New World Eternum. I think that is looking good, looking solid. I really like what Ubisoft showed off. Assassin's Creed and Star Wars. Both are fantastic. I'm going to go with Assassin's Creed right now. Assassin's Creed right now is my game of the show. It could be beat out by something else, but right now that's what I'm really loving.
Why do you love it so much?
I love the dual narrative kind of idea where you have two different protagonists that kind of work in different ways to take on the different challenges of the world, and it does kind of change up how Assassin's Creed's formula works. One's very kind of forceful, more just kind of out there, and one is kind of the typical Assassin's Creed stealth formula that I love. The Xbox Special had a lot of things. I did not know South of Midnight would look that good. Actually seeing gameplay from that game makes me more excited. I was kind of wondering what that game would be like. And the new Starfield expansion, I think that looks really cool.
Actually, today I got the opportunity to check out Dragon Age. Yo, that game is sick. Didn't like the trailer at Xbox.
Yeah.
The game behind closed doors, amazing. I can't wait. I'm not a hardcore Dragon Age fan. I'm more of like an RPG fan. But the way it plays super fast. There's a couple old characters you're gonna get to see from the previous games. It plays really, really good. Plus, the graphics looks really, really good, man. I don't know what type of engine. Maybe it's Frostbite.
It is.
It is? Okay, yeah, it looks really, really good, man. I'm very excited to try that out. I also check out like a couple of indie games. Blumhouse Games. Love where they're taking indie games, especially horror games. I love that strategy, working with like the indie developers and stuff like that. Hyper Light Breaker. Really enjoy that game too. Roguelike, you could play single player or co-op with two friends. I know their early access is coming out very soon, so I can't wait to try that out. Those are like my top favorites so far. World Monster Hunter Wilds, great game too. Forgot to mention that.
We had a good beginning of 2024, but what is up with the back half of 2024? All of these titles.
Oh man, it's looking scary, man. It reminds me of last year, man. The end of the year is gonna be a lot of great games, but man, 2025 is looking even crazier. So I don't know how I'm gonna look. I'm a new father, so I don't know how we're gonna manage to balance all that out, man.
I've seen a little bit of everything. The one thing I can actually talk about is Unknown 9 Awakening, and I'm super excited for that. I can't wait to go hands-on with it proper. It's an action and adventure. The woman Anya that plays Yennefer in the Witcher series, she's your main character, Haruna, and you have these powers, these Umbric abilities that you can literally step into other people's bodies and control what they do. One of the examples the guy gave us, he was stepping into people's bodies and piling them on top of each other, and then when they came back out of like the frozen time, he blew them all up. I'm like, yep, I need that in my life. I need to be able to do that for sure.
I'll tell you, there was a lot of good stuff here this year. For me, it's a two-way tie. Both similar-ish games, which I guess anybody that knows me maybe won't be surprised, but Replaced, just that pixel art, sort of cyberpunk-themed, side-scrolling action-adventure, which I learned from the demo has a lot more depth to it than I was expecting. There was basically a town where you could walk around, take missions from people, talk to people, so I was not expecting that many layers to it. Very pleasantly surprised there. So Replaced, and it also does continue to look gorgeous. The depth of field, the camera work, the pixel art, the lighting, all absolutely stunning in that game. And then the other one for me was Neva, which is from the makers of Grease, and that one is a limbo inside-like, no dialogue, side-scrolling, physics-based puzzle platformer. You've got a dog-like creature with you, and I think I probably pressed Y to pet the dog about 5 or 10 times in the first 5 minutes. I hope there's an achievement for that, by the way. There really should be. But that, just playing I got to play the first 45 minutes. That was a nice long demo. They just sat you down, handed you the controller, and hit start. So those two were really impressive.
The thing that surprised me the most is Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess from Capcom. I'm a big strategy fan, and I didn't expect it to be as strategy focused as it is. It's totally beautiful. It feels extremely different from anything Capcom has done. I talked to the developers actually, and one thing that's really interesting is they built dioramas for all of the buildings in the game and scanned them in. Because they said they wanted a perspective of, it's supposed to be like the Path of the Goddess, so they wanted you to feel like you're seeing it from the perspective of the goddess, essentially. The new Life is Strange game. I knew they had another Life is Strange game in the works, but I didn't expect it to be with Max again. I think it's going to be interesting to see how another studio kind of tackles that character.
tries to expand on that.
Oh my gosh, I think probably the Xbox Showcase was probably my absolute favorite. I think it was not only the best Xbox Showcase in years, but I think it's the best showcase period in years. So I think everything they were hitting were just on every single high note. I don't think there was a lull like throughout the entire thing, and so yeah, I think that was probably great. Of course, Astrobot from PlayStation was awesome, and even here, like Ubisoft, it actually like I loved playing Star Wars Outlaws. Looks great. Assassin's Creed Shadow looks awesome. There's some really good games, Vic.
All right, you guys, that's EP's trip to Summer Game Fest 2024. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. And if you aren't subscribed already, please consider subscribing to EPN. Thank you so much for your support. We've got a lot of fun games heading our way for 2024, and 2025 looks like it's going to kill 2023. And what a crazy few years we've had in video games, huh? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We'll see you soon. And until then, play forever.